What happens when a single sentence, spoken in a room crackling with rage, changes how a nation sees power forever? The room fell silent the moment the President of the United States screamed, "Get out!" But it was the calm reply that would echo for decades. The air in the East Room was thick enough to taste polished marble, perfume, and the electric unease of history about to be made. Chandeliers glowed like frozen fireworks above, their light catching the nervous glances of senators, ambassadors, and journalists packed tightly together. They had come for speeches on unity. What they witnessed was a collision. At the head table, President Donald Trump sat rigid, his jaw tight, eyes fixed like lasers on the podium. Flanking him, aides whispered behind cupped hands, their postures tense, as if braced for a tremor. Across the room, former President Barack Obama stood calm, his dark suit sharp against the deep blue backdrop, his expression not just composed, it was untouchable. He had been invited to speak about healing. No one knew his words would become a scalpel. It began smoothly enough. Silverware clinked against fine china. Laughter, polite and measured, rippled through the room. Cameras panned, slowly, capturing the illusion of civility. But beneath the surface, tension hummed. You could see it in the way guests leaned a little too far forward, in the pauses between conversations, in the quick, darting looks toward the two men who embodied two different Americas. When Obama finally rose to speak, the room stilled. His voice, low and steady, filled the space without straining. He spoke of institutions, of country over party, of the quiet strength of listening. Then his tone shifted ever so slightly. Not sharper, but clearer, like winter air. "History," he said, his gaze sweeping the room, "will not measure us by how loudly we spoke, but by whether we had the courage to choose unity over division." Trump's knuckles were white on the tablecloth, his eyes narrowed. You could feel the storm building in the silence between Obama's sentences. Then, a scrape of chair legs against marble. Sharp, jarring, violent. Trump shot to his feet, his finger thrust toward the podium. "Get out!" he roared. Gasps cut through the room. A diplomat dropped her program. For a second, no one moved. No one breathed. All eyes swung to Obama. He didn't flinch, didn't step back, didn't even blink. He stood as still as stone, his hands resting lightly on the sides of the podium. The silence stretched, heavy and uncomfortable, until he leaned slowly into the microphone. "Mr. President," he said, his voice so calm it was almost gentle, "this room doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the American people. And if the idea of unity makes you this uncomfortable, then perhaps the problem isn't me, it's the fear in your own heart." The room erupted, not in shouts, but in a wave of murmurs and shifting postures. A young aide in the back covered her mouth. A senator from the Midwest slowly nodded. Trump tried to speak again, sputtering, but the tide had already turned. Obama continued, his words measured, each one placed with care. "You can demand I leave. You can try to silence me, but you cannot silence the truth. Leadership isn't measured by how loudly you shout. It's measured by how much grace you show when you're tested." Someone in the audience clapped. Then another, then a dozen. Soon the room was thunderous with applause, not out of agreement, but out of awe. Out of relief, Trump stood fuming, his face flushed, his presence shrinking with every second Obama held the room without raising his voice. He tried to call for security, to protest, to reclaim the moment, but it was gone. The cameras weren't on him anymore. They were on the man who refused to be rattled. By the time Obama spoke his final line, even some of Trump's most loyal staff had gone still. "The presidency is temporary," he said softly. "Character is permanent, and tonight the American people are not watching what I say. They are watching how you respond." What happened next wasn't just political theater. It wasn't just a viral clip or a cable news moment. It was a mirror held up to the soul of the country. A reminder that in the face of raw anger, calmness can be its own kind of revolution. And long after the headlines faded and the East Room emptied, people kept asking themselves one question. When the world tests you, will you choose to shout, or will you choose to stand firm? What do you think defines true strength, volume, or character? Share your thoughts below.